All right, let's get our Facebook friends in here. All right, there we go. There we go. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. It is October 11th. Gosh, 2022. We're flying through this month, and we're already 5 weeks through the NFL regular season. And it's time for a little bit of Broncos for breakfast. I am Nick Kendall and struggling with my internet today, but still joined by Scott Kennedy out there in Atlanta. Scott, how you doing? It's a pretty big sports day for you in the Kennedy household.
Yeah, I'm doing well. We got some Champions League, some Chelsea at 3 Eastern, and then the Atlanta Braves playoffs, and right in the middle of NFL and college football season. It's not a bad time for the old sports fan. In October, fall is nice. Fall is nice. Weather's perfect. It's a good time to be a sports fan.
Yeah, no, it is a good time, absolutely, especially when your teams are winning. I've been having a lot of pain this
I
last
know,
week. I already
or it can
complained
be a
about it
really
yesterday.
tough time, and you go out and enjoy the weather. Let's go for a walk.
Yeah, nope, it was a rough weekend for that, but I'm still repping the Iowa Hawkeyes and of course repping the Denver Broncos on here this morning. But let's say hello to some folks coming in here in this fine Tuesday morning. We got Chase Wellner coming in saying, "Morning, fellas. The NFL needs to answer for yet another horrendous roughing call." Did you see the one last? I'm sure you have seen it.
I've seen
The one,
still shots of it. I haven't seen the whole thing in motion. I saw the commentary from Joe, and it was mostly from Joe, just like, what's he supposed to do? I
yeah,
mean, again, the overcorrection on this, is it's hurting the game. It's
mhm,
hurting the game. I mean, the sack on Tua, like, well, they didn't even call that a foul. It's because it wasn't a foul.
yeah,
That's the inherent risks of the game. You're allowed to pull somebody down by their hips onto their back. That's, it's like, oh, he threw them with excessive force. Man, these guys are strong athletes. If you don't tackle them, they'll get away and make a big play, and your ass is cut.
yeah.
I mean, it's a rough game out there. Either you're going to fundamentally change the entire game, or you're going to ruin it, or you're going to live
Mhm.
with guys getting hurt every so often. That's just the way it's been, the way it's always been, and it's never been safer than it is now.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I do hope that in the next decade we can see further improvement on the helmet technology. I don't give a flying hoo ha if the helmets are the Guardian helmets, the little padded looking ones. Just
Yeah.
make them a generic color. I don't care. Protect the players, especially protect the quarterbacks. If they have to get rid of the hard shells, then que sera, sera. The aesthetics don't matter as much to me.
Well,
But
as I've said a
go ahead.
zillion times, but it'll never, ever, ever happen. You want to get rid of concussions, get rid of the freaking helmets.
Yeah.
That won't stop the back of the head hitting, but all the neck injuries and spinal injuries and everything where you're leading with the helmet,
Yeah.
take the helmet off. I mean, it'll be more like rugby, and you don't hear about this stuff in rugby. Yeah, you get more. I've kind of talked about it like MMA versus boxing. MMA, you're more likely to get bloodied or a broken bone, but they're not killing people.
Yeah.
In boxing, it's like, okay, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to give you a concussion. We're going to count to 8, and if you can get up and be coherent, we're going to do it again. In MMA, when you lose motor functions, it's over.
Mhm.
It's done. Rugby and football are a little bit like that too. Yeah, I might get more broken noses and lose teeth, old hockey style, but they're not scrambling each other's eggs so badly because they're not in there leading with the crown of their helmet. I don't, like I said, it'll never ever ever happen. But Nick, part of the problem is the helmet,
Yeah.
because it turns into a weapon.
Gives guys a little bit more or less fear to lead into some of those big hits to do damage. Yeah, no, it's no doubt. And, talking about boxing there, getting knocked down for 8 seconds and then doing it again, kind of a little weak legged. Feels like how it's been watching the Broncos the last few seasons. A little bit of a recall on that one. Ryan Slavic coming in here saying, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope Billy Turner and Quinn Miners are starting Monday. Also glad to see Hinton is on the roster. Love to see Murray and Hamler get opportunities." So a lot to unpack here. Good morning to you, Ryan. Thank you for the comment. I think there's a good chance that we see Billy Turner and Quinn Miners on Monday. You have the 10-day or 11 days here, even longer than your typical uh, Thursday to Sunday turnaround, Thursday to Monday night. turnaround here. The Broncos have a lot of time to get things right and a lot of time for a reshuffle, and we're going to talk about that today. But I personally would be shocked if Quinn Miners and Billy Turner are not back out there Monday night versus at the Los Angeles Chargers.
We're 6 weeks and a day, into the season.
Yep.
So it's time, for sure. We've been hearing about, the hamstring injury is one thing. We've talked about those being like voodoo. One of my first introductions to this pod was when Ojemudia hurt his hamstring, and I was like, we were all kind of like, I'm glad it wasn't a knee. I'm like, I don't know, man. A skill player with a hamstring injury that can be a season ender too. I don't think this. I never got the feeling that this was the same problem with Quinn Miners, but 6 weeks on a rough hammy. Okay. We've been hearing about Billy Turner being almost ready since August 1st. I've got up, Halloween decorations. It's time. It's time to see Billy Turner get some competition going. You lose Garrett Bolles, but get those two back. It might be a net gain, and you start playing a little bit better.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Also, congrats to Kendall Hinton getting activated. The Broncos bringing back Trinity Benson yesterday, which is hilarious. Broncos trade him to the Detroit Lions for a 5th-round pick before Week 1 last year, and he's back now. Good for him. Yeah, good for him, and good for the Broncos to get an extra 5th. They need those picks. I think that 5th ended up being, it might have ended up being Montreal. No, it would have been their first 5th-round pick, so it would have probably been Delarian Turner-Yell. But anyway, I digress. It also says, I love to see Murray and Hamler get opportunities. We might see Murray this week, but I got to say, I went going back and, yes, Nick, did you go back and watch the Colts game? I just like pain. Just painful for my eyeballs. But I thought Mike Boone actually had a pretty good game. I don't know if there is a huge rush to get Murray involved, except maybe on some short line goal to go-ish opportunities, given he is just such a massive back. The last one here, you absolutely have to get Hamler involved. This offense right now with Russell Wilson, the offense is predicated on explosive pass plays, and you're not getting your most explosive pass player involved, and he's open. So
he's not hiding, Nick, like you're saying, he's not hiding out there where he's, you can tell he's playing scared of that knee. That's not happening. He's ready. He's ready to go.
Yeah. Richard coming in saying, Nick, be a little bit more optimistic. We'll be okay. Yeah, we will. It's just, I like to make self-deprecating jokes and tease about the team. And the Broncos have been tough to watch the last few seasons. And it's definitely disheartening to see them struggle out the gate this season. Injuries, Russell Wilson lat injury too. I mean, it's like, God, come on. And then we can't even get into the 1st-round draft picks this season. But said it from the beginning, give them 8 weeks. We'll reassess then after a full sample size of enough varying types of opponents and have a much better idea of who this team is, where they're going. But I'm never going to try to be optimistic or pessimistic. I'm just going to try to always be a realist and calls it like I sees it. Luke Wright in here. Good morning, Nick and Scott. How are we doing? Doing well. And another day to be alive. The air quality is actually cleaned out here in Seattle for a couple days with a low pressure system coming through. So I'm feeling pretty good. Actually can walk the dog without having to, feel my eyes burn a little bit, which is great. Dave Glassman coming in here with the hearts and the support. Dave, I saw Dave dropped a like. Guys, be like Dave. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you drop a like on the way in. We got Sunny Days too saying, make sure to hit that like on the way in, everyone. Good morning. Good morning to you. And Kevin Sevens coming in saying, fellas, I'm in India right now. Cool. Never been. Probably cool. I can't take us being this bad. I'm starting to realize that maybe Russ is washed. Sad face. What do you think about this? Is the media and the fan base laying on Russell Wilson too hard? Was it that he was built up to be something he was not before the season? Is it the injury? What's going on with your perception of how the Broncos country is perceiving Russell Wilson?
There's a lot going on. I don't think he's done. I don't think he's washed, because that would mean that most of, and this is a debate, where do you think the biggest problems of this team are? I think it's between the court. It's number 3 on Russell Wilson comes in number 3 on my list for me. 1 is offensive line. 2 becomes Nathaniel Hackett's coordination and direction of this team before I get to, and then we can start talking about the injuries. One of the losses to this team that I've said it a few times, but is Noah Fant. You lost, if Tim Patrick and Noah Fant, what was that? 150 catches, gone from this offense. Jerry Judy has yet to step up in a big way to become an alpha dog type. You got Sutton, and then you got Hamler, who has been ignored to this point. He's ready. Let's use him. And hopefully you'll get Greg Dulcich back, which will give you another big target. We talked about Nick, and I agree with you that, it takes a while for, a tight end to hit their stride, maybe in a full package. Yes. Where I
Yeah.
can put him out there for 60 plays and, I can trust him in line blocking and all of that stuff. But to just be a pass receiver, that's not hard. That's not hard for him to know, okay, this is your route tree. This is where you should expect the ball. That's not hard.
Yeah.
So he can make an impact. And frankly, the bar's been set so low. But I don't know. Short answer, no. I don't think I almost called him Russell cooked. I do not think Russell Wilson is done. I don't. I've seen enough to know that it's still there. He can still get it done.
Yeah, and for me, I think the issue is just expectations versus reality. People, and it's not Russ's fault really, but people expected him coming in and the Peyton Manning-esque stat line and ability, and it took Peyton a little bit too. But Russell's never been the Star Wars number type of quarterback. He's never really been Aaron Rodgers. He's never been Patrick Mahomes. Just what we're seeing with Josh Allen right now, Lamar Jackson. He's a very, very good quarterback. Been top 7 for most of his career pretty consistently. What is it? 9 Pro Bowls in 10 seasons or something like that. That's crazy good. But that's not this league altering, MVP frontrunner type of quarterback every single year.
And to be fair, hasn't he played for the same coach in the same basic system with philosophy his entire career? So we weren't sure. Again, drop him in New Orleans with Sean Payton the last 5 years and then come talk to me.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, it's the same coach, but the offensive philosophies, in theory, changed. Like the Darrell Bevell, the Schottenheimer offense. They have a San Francisco West Coast offense guy there in Seattle last season and still there. So everything did tend to devolve back to the Russell Wilson, layups versus 3-pointer type of offense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess like same culture in place, a lot of the same tenants. But yep. Enjoy India, Kevin. God, man, that sounds like a lot of fun. Bama X coming in saying, good morning, Broncos country. Man, I am stoked to the max for this week's college football games. Alabama, number 3, I think, going into number 6, Tennessee. Should be a heck of a matchup. Hendon Hooker has been a fun quarterback to watch this season. Hopefully Bryce Young is healthy because Hooker versus Young might be one of the best quarterback matchups we've gotten so far this year. So a lot of fun and watching a lot of college football still with the draft lens for Scott over here for the Falcons, who knows what they're going to go with in the draft. Philip coming in saying, morning, guys. Good to see you. Greg Smith with the food emojis and the coffee saying good morning. We got Lance Johnson coming in saying, good morning, fellas. The sun came up again today. Yes, it did. Nick D saying the helmets should be like guardian caps for the offensive line and defensive line. I don't know enough of the specifics for the offensive line and defensive line guardian caps. I thought that the primary use of that wasn't to limit concussions, but rather to protect hands, like the quarterback's hands or players' hands when they're flailing around up there hand fighting. But if they believe those would also reduce concussions, give it to me. Oh, they look dumb. Yeah, you know what? I'd rather not see Tua Tagovailoa look like he's going to throw up and his eyes
an
like
epileptic seizure on the ground.
Yes.
And frankly, the concussions aren't as big a problem in the trenches because the collisions aren't as there's not as much velocity.
Yeah.
The what is it? Momentum equals mass times velocity squared. You square the velocity.
Mm-hmm.
So the faster they're going, it's exponential on the speed of the impact. And again, they're belly to belly. The concussions aren't as big a problem for the guys blocking as it is for the guys tackling and being tackled because of the nature of the game itself. I ran a combine a long time ago, and one of the sponsors came in. It was Under Armour, and they didn't want the offensive lineman doing 1-on-1s without pads. I'm like, but you want them? You're okay with them doing 7-on-7s? I'm much more worried about the safeties. About 4 17-year-old kids looking up at the air at one spot at a ball and coming together than I am about 300-pound guys bumping bellies.
Mm-hmm.
It was ridiculous. So if I'm going guardian caps, I'm going to mandate it for one position. It's going to be the skill guys, not the big dudes in the trenches.
Yeah, but that's kind of my point, right? Like, are the guardian caps actually reducing concussions, or are they providing a soft surface to protect the hands and the digits
face
and
mask getting cut in there? But they're so taped up and everything in there. It's like they're out there with casts anyway.
Yeah, clubs.
The bigger danger for the big dudes is, unfortunately, as we know, is people rolling up on their legs.
Rolled up on. Yep. which is kind of leading us to our topic today. But we want to say hello to some more people. First, Dom out there in Albuquerque saying, good morning, Nick, Scott, and Broncos country. Broncos might suck. They don't suck. They're in the group of, trudgery right now. That is most of the NFL. Okay, they've not played great, but they're 2-3, and God, there are so many teams that are 2-win, 3-win teams right now. There's just a huge middle class.
The offense sucks.
The offense has
sucked. The offense has sucked. Yeah, yep. Overall, but the special teams have been good. The defense has been good, and you're hovering right at 500. Yep. So the offense has sucked. Yep. No two ways about that one.
Yep. Yeah, that's unfortunately, that's true, but nowhere to go but up mostly. But he says Broncos might suck, but we aren't choke artists like the Raiders who always blow a lead. They beat us, so I'm having a little bit of hard time talking too much crap on them. But good to see the Raiders get beat last night and maybe lower the number of teams in the middle class. Made me laugh hard last night. Bring on the Chargers. Let's go have that mile high magic, baby. Yeah, absolutely, Dom. Funny to see that last night. Did you see
real quick on this one? There's been an element in the chat. You can it's not Dom, so we can take Dom off the screen. There's been an element in the chat lately, and it seems to be going from one person to two people to three people to four people of the negativity and the name calling and the turning on one another. It's going to stop. Just stop. I don't want to see it anymore. I will ban your asses from the chat. I don't want it in here. It's not what we're about, and we're not going to have any more. So just knock it off. Thank you very much.
Message brought to you by Scott and the Sunshine and Friends. Whatever the hell that means. The James coming in too, saying it's beyond time for the NFL to embrace technology, not just tackle technique, but things like chain measurements, concussion management, detection, etc. Yeah, I mean, God, this is a $1 billion industry, and you know what's really going to be the pusher for evolution here in the technology in the NFL realm to get things right? Gambling. There is so much money being exchanged with the NFL, the gambling becoming legal in all these states, that if they're getting these calls wrong, that could be easily right with, a microchip in the football to get the spot exactly right, or quick review from a booth somewhere else. That's going to happen. So, I mean, heck, that's just another chance for more commercials in these games as well. I don't ever feel like it's not like baseball. No offense, Scott. I know baseball's still going there. Baseball's dead to me for the season. With the Cardinals going out, but it's not like baseball where the games are 3.5 hours long and they're doing everything they can to limit the game, shorten it a bit. NFL, I mean, people are still tuning in and sticking around for that. So I think that they definitely should be looking at these areas, technology, to improve the calls upon the game and maybe remove some of that human aspect that is the officiating.
It's tough. Watching college right now is dreadful. With all of the stops, I don't necessarily like the challenge system because it shouldn't be up to the guys on the sidelines to make the officials do their jobs correctly. So I haven't always liked that. But if you remember way back when, instant replay was put in to correct the egregious, not to check on this far of did he make the first down or not? So I've always said, man, put a 20-second clock on it. Just 20 seconds, and you can do that between plays. And if you've got to stop it because someone thinks they're getting away with one, okay, that's fine. But 20 seconds, if I can't tell in 20 seconds, then play ball. It's not egregious. It's the old clear and obvious. If I don't have 20 seconds, it should be clear and obvious. If it takes me any longer than that, guess what? Guess what? It's not, Nick. If it takes me 15 camera angles to figure it out, guess what? It's not. It's not clear and obvious. 30 seconds at most, move on, and you can get a lot of these things right.
Yeah, 100%. We got Justin May coming in saying, don't understand why Butch Barry, Broncos offensive line coach Butch Barry, doesn't get more criticism. The offensive line has to be bottom 5 this year. I understand last year they were just average, but gosh, watching it looks awful. Justin, if you've been tuning in here, you know that we've been critical of Butch Barry on multiple shows, and he's been one of the ones that I have definitely not held back on. And I keep saying this is the same exact, had been pretty much the same exact offensive line as last season, specifically the interior trio, and they look so much worse. Some of that is scheme. Some of that is maybe the quarterback changes going on there, but the biggest difference, I believe, is going from Mike Munchak and Chris Cooper, whose Vikings offensive line looks pretty good, to Butch Barry. Butch Barry should definitely be getting on the hot seat. He definitely deserves criticism.
Well, and part of it, most people don't know who the offensive line coaches are.
That's exactly it.
They just don't. I mean, I couldn't have told you. We're here every single day. I'm on here at least twice a day, except Saturdays. So I'm on a Broncos pod, either producing or here 10 times a week. I couldn't have told you the name of the offensive line coach. I could tell you that we've definitely said the offensive line has regressed and we need to take a look at the coaching. And I know who the former one was because there's been calls, shouldn't have let that guy go. But most of the time, until it gets this bad, that's the first time I think I could have told you I've heard the name Butch Berry. You know, it's not a glamorous position, kind of like the offensive line itself. You're not getting a lot. If you're hearing your name, something's probably wrong, and we've gotten to that point that I think again the offensive line wasn't good, and now they've regressed. They've regressed from year to year.
Yep. Not great. Not great at all. We got Blank coming in here on Twitch with the Russell Wilson with the Mickey Mouse hand holding the football there. Love it. Good to see a Blank over there on Twitch. Gordon coming in saying all that hype for absolutely nothing. We suck. Unreal what's going on. Don't bury this team just yet. There's a lot of football yet to be played, but they do have to get the offensive line right. No doubt about that. But as far as did we get Joseph's comment here? Good morning, Nick and Scott. If Turner Miners are back, who is the best starting offensive line in your opinion? Well, I think you have Turner at right tackle still. You have Miners at right guard.
You had some news about left tackle. If you wanted to, you wanted to make that discussion, what could possibly happen here?
Yeah, it does. Okay, well, I've heard it from a few different people now. As far as the Broncos left tackle situation goes, and everybody, you know, when Garrett Bolles goes down, just immediately assumes Calvin Anderson's going to be the left tackle plug and play. You know, he was fighting there for right tackle, always looked better, more comfortable left tackle. Doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. From what I've gathered so far, and this has not been, you know, directly from Broncos coach or anything, so things could still change after this upcoming week of practice. But it sounds like right now Cam Fleming is actually going to be the first in line for that left tackle spot. They've enjoyed, been impressed with what he's done at right tackle so far this season, and sounds like he's going to get first crack at left tackle. So I would not be surprised at all if Cam Fleming's the starting left tackle, left guard Reisner, center still Cushenberry, right guard Miners, and then right tackle Billy Turner.
Well, you know, the whole thing, it sends up a red flag to me anyway. When you say, oh, he's better at left tackle than right tackle, that's not how it works. You know, the progression goes best offensive lineman left tackle. Then I move him to right tackle. If he's not quite good enough there, I get an upgrade. Then I move him to right tackle. Then if I don't have him, if he's not working out at right tackle, then I try guard. If it's not working guard, they're off the team. So say, oh, he wasn't very good at right tackle. Let's put him at left tackle. No, that's not how it works. If he was replaced at right tackle, which he was, then it's an emergency situation to say he's going in at left tackle. Now, would you say, okay, Fleming's been playing okay at right tackle. We don't want to upset two positions. We don't want to make two positions worse. We would put him in this spot if that was all we could do. Okay, I get that. Yeah. But to say, oh yeah, he's not a very good right tackle. He's a better left tackle. It doesn't work that way 99 times out of 100. So it doesn't surprise me, Nick, when you told me that if Billy Turner is healthy, they would just as soon move Fleming over to left tackle. And they don't really want Anderson at all. When Anderson played in the preseason first game and was replaced by Fleming, that told me plain and simple they don't want Anderson in there unless they don't want him in there at all if they can help it.
Yeah. We got Maddie coming in over on Facebook saying Russ is not washed, not maximizing Russ to his full potential. Let Russ roll out and stop trying to keep him in the pocket. The issue with these rollout actions is that typically they come with a play action under center, and you need to have the perceived threat of a run game. Otherwise, these pass rushers are going to be able to pin their ears back with Russ's back to the line of scrimmage where he doesn't have time to react to the pass rush. So the rollouts, the movement and whatnot, they all stem off of a somewhat competent threat of a run game that the Broncos simply do not have right now because the offensive line is struggling to function in the run game right now. They're one of the worst run blocking offenses in football so far this season. And specifically on the interior, they're not working that outside zone. They can't move well enough to operate the outside zone. They don't have the type of athletes that you're looking for that scheme. So I agree with you. Ideally, you're seeing Russ, being outside of the pocket. But right now he's trying to play like Drew Brees, and the accuracy, the quick game, it's just not there to operate like a Drew Brees, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Nick said it. I'll say it just real clearly. Just watch the center position, okay? When you snap the ball and you're getting driven back 3 yards off the snap, it's hard to do anything in the pocket. And the play action, all of that stuff, the rollouts, the naked boots, bootleg, move in the pocket, most of that starts under center. And when you're dropping 3, you're taking the snap 1, 2, 3, and your center's in your lap before you can even get your feet set, it becomes real tough. And you can do some different things, but when you're head up on the center, it doesn't matter if it's play, pass, run, or pass. I know I can just fire off straight off of that center, and I'm going to be an effective defensive lineman if I can drive him backwards, no matter the play call. So you've got to be able to get some competency at that position, because you're weak in the gut right now.
100%, really weak in the gut. Blank coming in talking about that, saying behind our offensive line and quarterbacks look washed. Oh, see Patrick Kavanagh first coming in.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on that one. I thought we were moving on. Apologies.
Nope, it's okay. I always like to give our Twitch guys a little time. And thank you, C. Patrick, for the support, the silent one. We always appreciate you. I'm saying every quarterback who's been here has been sacked, hurt, and discouraged. We're on our way to ruining another. See, I thought the offensive line last season was average, and you can get done with average if your quarterback is top 12, which we did not have here last year. Obviously, you always want to add to the offensive line in every position, but they really have regressed this season. And the other thing is, we've had this conversation on here many times. You guys, I hate to rehash arguments again, but just with how Russell Wilson plays the quarterback position, because he is probably a below average quarterback, let's just say that, in the quick game, specifically in the quick game, what does that mean? It means your run game has to supplant the quick game. It's not like Tom Brady where, the Patriots aren't running the football. Okay, who cares? He's getting the ball out quickly to to running backs and tight ends. That's essentially an extension of the run game. That's not Russell Wilson's game. He's a home run or layup kind of quarterback. And in order to work that, you need to have a competent threat and efficiency from the run game, which the Broncos do not have right now. Obviously, you lose a lot of that with Javonte Williams going out for the season. But the biggest culprit right now is the offensive line, and also the personnel package is tipping their hands. Like if Tomlinson or Saubert's out there, guess what? It's probably a run play. If Albert Okwuegbunam's out there, guess what? It's probably a pass play. So personnel's hurting a little bit of that as well. Wide receivers blocking Jerry Judy. I watched the all-22 of the Colts game. Jerry Judy had like 4 or 5 whiffed blocks. Honestly, who was the most surprising blocker in that entire game, Scott? KJ Hamler. KJ Hamler is out there getting his head in there. He was doing the dirty work. That dude deserves some targets with the work he was doing in the run game out there.
I think we'll see it. I'm going to set the over-under at 5. 5 targets for KJ Hamler in the next game.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Bruce Deuce coming in saying, come on, Russ brought expectations. What about Super Bowl cleats? No, it's whatever. James
some of it's self-inflicted. It's not like we're up here saying, it was Super Bowl or bust. We heard it from the players themselves. This isn't just a bunch of media hype.
Yep.
We're buying into it. There was a comment when, you asked me, did you watch OTAs? I'm like, well, there was 90 seconds of highlights, but, I think that was all that was available. And I don't consider that watching OTAs. And frankly, I don't watch OTAs anyway.
Yeah.
And there was a comment on YouTube that someone says, sometimes it really sucks that you can tell Scott's not a Denver Broncos fan. I mean, he's not even watching OTAs. I'm like, man, I wouldn't walk across the street to watch anybody. OTAs. You don't learn anything.
Yeah.
You can find out if someone's moving okay, if they're coming off an injury. That's it.
Yeah.
That's about it. And I don't need to spend 3 hours and all my time trying to do that, because otherwise you get sold a bill of goods when it's same on same, and you don't learn anything from OTAs. So going back to the media hyping things up, I don't remember hearing any big red flags coming out of preseason practice about this looks bad. The offensive line isn't getting a push.
You can't tell with the offensive line. That's yeah.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about a team until you go up against somebody that's trying to put your ass in the ground.
Yep. 100%. That's what we do every morning in here. Try to put each other's asses in the
That's
ground.
right. That's right.
Albert Knoppers, good morning to you, Albert. Hope you're doing well. Richard coming back in with a third super chat today. It says optimists and pessimists are wrong, but optimism feels better. Yes, it does.
See, and then I'm such a pessimist. I always said that optimist is like blind hope and faith, and a pessimist is a synonym for reality. Um, but
Yeah.
you know, always borrow money from a pessimist. They don't expect to get paid back.
Yeah. No, it's I'm definitely more of an optimist when like I'm out on a hike. Sometimes people get like slightly annoyed by me on a hike because I'm like, trucking uphill. I'm like, wow, look at this. And I'm like, panting, whatever. I'm like, type 2 fun. Or, like we're getting eaten by mosquitoes out in the tent, 20 miles from civilization or 20 miles from the trailhead, if you call it trailhead civilization. And it's like, oh man, this is miserable. I'm like, no, man, I'd rather be here than anywhere else.
Yeah.
This is no big deal. Jay Roper coming in saying, Nick, you ready to hop on the overhaul of the medical and training staff? As data guys think it's time the injuries and type of injuries screaming evidence. I'd want to. This is just me. I'd want to talk with some experts in the field of these sports injuries, go over the types of injuries, the timelines of the injuries, and even then, you're still not going to have all the data because just like any sort of injury that happens, it's very personal to the individual. There's a lot of data that goes into assessing that individual's injury, but it's definitely something where at least I'm open to it. I'm not going to sit here and scream about the medical staff because again, I trust what I can see and what I know, and that's why I'm sitting here, talking with Scott about OTAs, that waiting to preseason, gathering more data. Even 5 weeks in, I'm like, I'm discouraged right now. Let's give it another 3 weeks to see what it looks like still. So I'm not going to be piling on them. However, if there are experts in the field that are, screaming about the medical staff not being good enough, that's a concern. There are hamstrings injuries that are popping up, the soft tissue injuries. Those are the ones that are the red flags. Knee injuries, concussions, crap like that. I mean, that's a concern. I guess walking it back here real quick to end this rant, though, my big one here with the medical staff is who, well, and we'll see how it plays out, but who okayed the signings of Compton and Turner? And do we see those guys? What do they look like this season? Because if you're giving the green flag to guys who are not even going to play this season or like play, and then, let's say, I don't even want to breathe it, but let's see how they play. But if they don't turn out okay signings this season, that's where I'm a little bit concerned. Why would you okay this when this is obvious? Then later on, it's like, oh, it's not getting any better.
Yep. We've talked about that as well, where you're having trouble keeping guys healthy, getting guys healthy, and now you're signing guys that are injured that aren't playing. I've got big questions for that. If I'm owner, I might have more money than I'll ever freaking need, but that's still millions of dollars that I'm just writing checks for and not getting anything out of anything. If we did that, if you signed a guy, if you drafted a guy that has contributed as little as if you drafted a guy you're expecting to be a starter that played as little because he wasn't good enough, you'd have questions of your scouting department and whoever okayed that and the process that went through it. I think it's absolutely okay. And at this point, I'm ready to have a seance, man, an exorcism or something. This will be, there'll be 3 years now where I'll have to look it up. I just did a quick Google search before, and it was games lost to injury. And the Broncos were like 28th and 29th the last 2 seasons. It's stacking up. Is it the oxygen in the blood that makes it easier to pull hamstrings? I don't know, but you're definitely hitting the areas for concerns for sure.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's randomness, but if it happens, 5 years in a row, then maybe there's a trend there and you need to at least do the research for it. And guess what? This is another thing where you got Mr. Moneybags and Mrs. Moneybags coming in for the Broncos. And where are areas where there is no limitation on where you can spend money? Have the most cutting edge medical facilities, sports training staff that money can buy. And hopefully that makes a difference out there. Throw money at the problem. The Waltons, please. Let's talk about money at problems. Jetty Splash has singles. It's more painfully annoying to hear how we're bringing in new people without focusing on our offensive line. Actually, Shingles is more painful, I lied. Sorry to hear about Shingles, Jetty Splash. I'll peel back the curtain here just a little bit on myself. I work in vaccine research and have worked on the Shingrix vaccine. So there is a vaccine out there to hopefully limit it. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of the political diatribe that associates with that, but hopefully you'll feel better soon. I've had family members with shingles. Somebody had it on their eyeball. God, I can't imagine a worse hell. So hopefully you feel better soon, man. That really sucks. I feel bad for you.
Yep,
Mm,
I agree. Miguel
shoot.
coming in green. Appreciate the super coming in on YouTube. Miguel says, "Good morning, fellas." YouTube. Who would have thought? Hope Broncos country is having a good day. The farther you get away from that last game, the more that the optimism starts coming up for this next game. Um, you'd think it's
Mhm.
tough. You're in a tough spot right now. All it takes is one good performance to change everything around. You're sitting there at 3-3. You hang around 500 for 14 weeks, you're in the playoff hunt. You got a
Mhm.
chance at this thing.
Yep. 100%. We also got Matt Henry coming in over on Facebook saying, "Good morning, Broncos for breakfast. If we get a new head coach next year, who would you guys like to see take over the coaching role?" Well, I will say that last year at this time, the hot name was Kellen Mond, and he fell off
Kellen
really.
Moore.
Kellen Moore, excuse me.
Kellen
Kellen
Mond's
Mond is the
quarterback.
quarterback.
Yeah,
Yes, Kellen
quarterback.
Moore. Yes, excuse me.
Not that Kellen Moore wasn't, but
Yeah, no, but Kellen Moore, former quarterback at Boise, who really fell off there with the Cowboys at the end. So I want to see what the end of the season looks like. The names right now that I think would make a lot of sense to me. Obviously, Sean Payton, you'd probably have to trade. You would have to trade to get him here. He's still under contract with the Saints, but he's
or
one to
send
keep
cash. That was
or
something
send cash.
I said last year. It's just like you don't have to. You'd have to compensate that. It's compensation. You'd have to
Mhm.
compensate the Saints for them to release him from his contract. But the compensation, we're used to just hearing players and draft picks. Wouldn't have to be. You could
Yeah.
send him a boatload of money. You could send him $20 million and say, we want to buy out the rights to his contract. It's how soccer works, and it
Yep.
works like this a lot in non-player moves where you can take advantage of being a filthy rich owner and send the Saints a bunch of money.
Yeah. That would be a good one. Um, I gotta say, I've been really, really impressed with DeMarco Ryan over
D'Amico.
with D'Amico, excuse me.
Mhm.
D'Amico Ryan with the 49ers. That 49ers team, the coverages they're playing and how just seamless they are, going from Robert Salah to this defense the 49ers are running with D'Amico Ryans. He seems like he should be getting interviews as well. Now, the big thing with the Broncos is that I've been really impressed with Ejiro Evero. And can you bring in somebody that would be okay keeping him? I mean, I know that's pie in the sky. If a new coach comes in, he's going to want to bring in his own guys, blah, 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 blah. But D'Amico Ryans and Sean Payton seem like to be the two right now that are really, really stand out for me. But I'd have to do more research on this. I'm still in I'm critical of Hackett, but he at least deserves the season to see what it looks like and if we can have some forward positive momentum.
Yeah, when I see taking over, I almost think that is an in-season move, and I would probably
Mm,
go as Giro Evero as an
yeah.
interim.
Yeah.
If I was going to do something like that, and then see how they responded, and if he wins 4 games in the season, I wouldn't can him. Raiders.
Hmm.
That's I'd bring in. I might give him a chance at the role if he wins the last 4 games of the season and everybody is playing their butts off for him.
Yeah. Said hello to Aniso. Morning, y'all. Good to see you. Tim Durr coming in saying there does need to be some shifting on the offensive line, starting with Cushenberry. I've tried to take up for him, but he's not improved. If anything, he's regressed since last season, which is unfortunate given the narratives that surrounded Cushenberry this offseason. Turned out to be a bunch of hoopla, unfortunately. But I think Cushenberry, because of the running the scheme, the transition from the snap exchange and whatnot, he's probably one of the last ones that you're going to see a shift. So first you're going to see the Quinn Miners getting re-entered into the offensive line and Billy Turner going in there with something happened at left tackle. I think that's without a doubt. The next question then for me becomes the next hurdle for shifting is the bye week. I think after the bye week, if Cushenberry is still playing this bad, you have then 14 days to work on the center snap exchange between Russell Wilson and probably Graham Glasgow. I don't think they'd throw in Luke Wattenberg, but Graham Glasgow. The other one then is if the offensive line is still really struggling to move people with the addition of Quinn Miners, you probably have to look over at center and left guard. Maybe Tom Compton then, if he's healthy after the bye week, which is what I've heard they're aiming for, might get a shot over Dalton Reisner. Maybe Dalton Reisner's traded by then if the Broncos are struggling and you have to play somebody else. You're not going to get a lot for him. You're probably getting, it's kind of the Malik Reed special where you're getting a 6th-round pick in return for Dalton Reisner in a 7 or a 5th-round pick for Dalton Reisner in a 7. But that adds up. You can trade that 5th-round pick for 3 7s then if you want more picks. But right now, yeah, Kush is definitely a weak link. I would say he's probably the weakest on the offensive line right now, but Glasgow and Reisner are not too far behind, unfortunately, or ahead, I guess.
Yeah, there's the key here is having the healthy bodies to have options. We talk about that all the time, Nick, with contracts, with players. You want to have the options out there. When you're just stuck, you get that hopeless feeling. It's how is it going? How is it going to get better when the you can't change the personnel? Competition will help for sure, and then maybe one of the new guys can play better.
Yeah.
It's some of it you like to say, well, this guy's a starter for a reason. Why would you think his backup's just going to be better? Well, we haven't seen healthy backups. We haven't seen any of these guys play healthy yet. There's two guys you signed to come in and compete. We haven't seen. So hopefully they can come in and at least elevate the level of one or two positions to average. And then you get a plus in Quinn Miners. All of a sudden your offensive line starts looking a lot better internally without having to make any big changes.
Yeah, and I think, again, just all comes back to, for me, the functionality of this offense. You need to be able to run the ball efficiently. I mean, I don't know if this data is out there or is accessible. It's out there, but I don't know if it's accessible for me. But the average yards to go on third down or the average, EPA on first down versus second down, the Broncos right now, it seems like constantly behind the sticks.
For 2
Just
years.
for 2 years, but this year too.
Mhm.
I mean, it's been more than 2 years, Scott.
I know, but
But
we said that all last year too.
yeah.
You're in your defense is in 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 1 all game, and your offense is in 3rd and 8
Mhm.
all game long.
Yep. And that seems like that's been the case this season. This season's that issue is more exacerbated by penalties than last season as well. So at least you have something that's a little bit more correctable than just we're getting our ass kicked and can't get the yards. But right now, I think the Broncos have to be bottom 10 in average yards to go on third down. And that is hurting them a lot. And because of that, the big difference between 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 8 is that 3rd and 8, you're playing empty set or 11 personnel out of shotgun, where 3rd and 2, you can be under center and 12 personnel or pro formation and actually use that deep drop back game. Hell, you're hunting for big plays with Russell Wilson. Those throwaway downs where it's 2nd and 2, that's when you hunt. That's when you're looking for the big plays. And it's just constantly you're having to fight for every single yard where you don't have the luxury of hunting for those big plays because you're trying to live by getting the first down. So, and I think a lot of that can be corrected if the running game was just a little bit better, specifically with the run blocking, but they're just not there right now. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. And again, it all comes back to the offensive
Yeah.
line. We can move on a little bit because I'll keep saying it. I'm a little bit farther down the chat, and the discussion is like, well, we would have been better off if. Those are hindsight moves. Is there anybody that at the time that said, okay, this is a trade we shouldn't have made? I'm not going to regrade this in hindsight. I think it was still a good trade for the Broncos at the time. Whether it works out, you don't know. We've said that about Nathaniel Hackett. There's a lot of unknown there, but I think it was a good trade to make. Giving all that up for Aaron Rodgers for a short-term gain was a little scarier with his age. You've got a 2-3 year window, but you're expecting, competent plus top 10 quarterback play from Russell Wilson. And is it all, again, I just go back. It's like, it's not all just on Russell Wilson, but the offensive line, you've got some free agency money next year. The offensive line needs to be addressed in a big, big way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And luckily, that's one area where the Broncos can throw some cash at it. And they have 2 spots right now that look like they could throw some cash at. 3 spots they could throw some cash at and really improve. Ashton coming in saying, getting watched live. Feels like Nick disappears for a few shows, and those are the same ones we're missing. Ashton, they're going to figure out that you've been hiking with me. I guess he's a Nick Kendell fanboy. Well, appreciate that. Brad D coming in saying, with the patchwork offensive line and generally torpid offense, the scheme has to be adjusted. You're limited to the style of quarterback that you have no matter what. And with Russell Wilson, you have to be able to run the football. And right now they can't, so the offense looks bad. The big one for me, and I posted this yesterday, Scott, I don't know if you saw this, but the Broncos' third down and red zone numbers, horrible so far this season. I don't know if did you see this tweet? How bad these numbers actually are?
No, but I mean, you can't have converted third down more than twice in the red zone all season.
They were really good against the 49ers. on third down, which is a
No,
surprising
in the
one.
red zone.
Oh, in
You
the
weren't in
red
the
zone.
red zone very often. That was the
Yes.
you were talking about that one. You said in the red
Yes.
zone.
Yeah, red zone. So third down conversions this season, after 5 weeks, the Broncos have converted 22 out of 72 attempts on third down. Typically, teams hover around
50.
50% ish. The Broncos right now are at 30.6%. Not great. Then you get to the red zone conversion rate. Now, what is a red zone conversion? That means you're scoring touchdowns, not that you're kicking field goals, although there maybe should be another number there for not getting any points in the red zone versus 3, because the Broncos would be bad there as well. But the Broncos in the red zone so far this season, this one is painful, Scott. 3 for 14 on the year. 3 for 14 coming in at a 21.4%. Both of those, I didn't do this for the entire league. Both of those have to be near bottom 5 in the NFL. And that's not getting it done. So talking about the scheme, if you don't trust your team to run the football, especially on the interior offensive line, you to play, man up kind of blocking scheme, you're not going to be able to run the balls effectively in that zone. So I think that's a big one. Also, the tight ends utilizing the red zone, been struggling there. A lot of drop passes in those areas and just not converting the touchdowns. So I don't know what adjustments can be really made other than Russell Wilson getting better in the scheme and making better reads, hitting the guys that are open, which he did not do against the Colts, and hopefully getting, spreading the love. I mean, if Judy's open, get the ball to Judy. If Hamler's open, get the ball to Hamler. If Sutton's open, get the ball to Sutton.
And Quinn Miners at right guard, you've got a better chance of running the ball too.
Yeah.
So, that changes things. You get down in the red zone, you convert because you're not just converting on third down, you're better on first down. You're better on, an incompletion on first down. Every offensive coordinator in the history of this game runs the ball on 2nd and 10. If it was an incompletion, they come back with a run. And instead of 2nd and 9, maybe instead of 3rd and 9, maybe you're 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, because you're able to shorten those distances. Everything gets better. I said I wasn't going to keep beating this dead horse, but I'm gonna. Everything gets better when your offensive line improves. Quinn Miners will improve the offensive line. The rest of it, we're not sure about. We'd like to think that the competition and the guys you brought in to start will improve the offensive line. What we know is Quinn Miners will make this offensive line better. Better offensive line will lead to better offense. Period. Even if it's incremental. Incremental adds up. When you start talking about those percentages, what's the difference between conversion on 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 6? It's probably 50% increase on doing that on your conversion rates across the NFL. It might be 15 to 30%. That's 100% improvement rate. Those little things start to matter when you're incrementally better on the offensive line.
Yep. Yeah, it's got to get better here. John coming in saying, Scott, this is a question for you. Explain why the Raiders went for 2 last night to close out the game. Coaching the NFL is lacking this year.
Go for the win while you got the momentum. You're on the road. There's an old saying in baseball, when you're on the road, you play for the win and not the tie. You play for the tie at home. 60 points being scored. It's not like people were stopping anybody. There was still enough time on the clock, too, that you weren't stopping Travis Kelce either, that, you wanted to you want to have, if I get a stop, I want to win it. So I get it. I get it. I don't mind that. I'm 1-3. I'm not playing for a freaking tie.
Yeah.
I got a chance you got a chance to beat the Chiefs with a 2-point play. Take your freaking shot. Take your shot. I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I am.
Sweep the leg. Right. No. But yeah, no, I think a lot of times teams in that situation will go for 2 and go for the win. The big thing for me in that one is I feel like Patrick Mahomes can get down the field instantly. So like going for 2 versus going for 1 doesn't change things.
It's not a big difference, but at least if you get a stop, you win. You get the win and not just, okay, we got to stop it. Now we got to stop him again.
Yeah. And then you have Devonte Adams shoving a sound guy at the end of the game. He apologized on Twitter saying that guy came out of nowhere. Watching the video, it did not look like the guy came out of nowhere. And it sounds like the league is looking at potential discipline for Devonte Adams.
Be discipline. He won't get away with that scot-free. No pun intended.
Just like this show, not scot-free. Kevin Gray, Morning Broncos Country. Nick Scott came in late. Go to started. Watch Denver Broncos for life. All right, Kevin Gray, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you. Tofu. Going back to the start. Okay, that makes sense. Tofu coming in saying, I can't believe we are legitimately talking about firing the head coach 5 games. Got to have a little patience. There's no way Payton moves on from his first head coach hire after 1 season. Payton has to answer the new regime, the new owners here. And
the guys that just spent $5 billion will have a bigger say in this than George Payton.
100%. So he gets the year. And again, there has to be a lot of factors to it. Like the Broncos have to fall so flat on their face. There has to be like lack of institutional control. There has to be dissent in the locker room. There has to be like kind of like in the scene, one of Hackett's favorite movies, Step Brothers, where they come in, oh, you're interviewing in suits. And then, John C. Reilly just rips a nasty one in there. And it's like, you just fart? Is that like onions and ketchup? Now the tuxes seem a little bit effed up. That's is that reference over your head there, Scott?
We have derailed.
No, have you seen Step Brothers?
I haven't.
Okay, you always make the movie references in here. Step Brothers is a very good one. I like Will Ferrell, but that's one of his best movies he's had. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Scott hasn't seen Step Brothers. That's wild.
Yeah, I would, going back to this tofu, after 5 games, it's too soon. We might find out a little bit about the knee-jerk reaction to the owners. I don't think they honestly are going to care enough that they would make a move like this mid-season. But on this track, absolutely, he would move on after 1 year. The Broncos are 2-3 right now. Let's multiply that by what? By 3, and we're talking 6-11. He ain't coming back.
No.
If it's 6-11, if this team finishes 6-11, you got a new coach next year.
100%. And Tim coming in saying, I think Payton needs to listen to you guys about the offensive line in the draft. The issue is
from my saying it.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying it, but the issue is that they have had some offensive line in their crosshairs in the last 2 drafts, and guys have been taken before the Broncos have had a chance to swing. So that's the reality sometimes. So there's 31 other teams that are drafting, and you're not just going to get all your top guys. Well, it'll be interesting to see how the needs change this offseason. We talked about it already. I mean, the real question here, Garrett Bolles, is he back? You can save a good bit of money, and his play this season had not been up to the contract that he's getting paid. He had been probably about a league average offensive tackle. Maybe you're looking to save a little bit of money there and go elsewhere, or offer him, a deal where he gets higher guaranteed money over the next 2 seasons. Not a raise, but a restructure to get more guarantee in there to keep him on there. The Graham Glasgow special, if you will. That's what Graham got. Then you have questions about cornerback. Right now we have an audition coming up for Damari Mathis and Michael Ojemudia. If those guys struggle, then you're talking about cornerback being a massive need opposite Patrick Surtain, and questions probably at linebacker as well. So those are spots. Tight end, still a question mark. Wide receiver, if Jerry Judy doesn't take a step forward. So right now, the big obvious one is offensive line. There's no doubt the Broncos will toss some money at that and draft capital there this offseason, but it's not the only potential need this team is going to have.
Yeah, and you answered the question. Kathy Schmidt coming in from Germany. Welcome back. It's good to see you. And then I think Nick just answered your question. Who's going to step up after Darby got hurt? Another big loss.
He's playing great. God, he's playing great.
Just another big loss. So appreciate you coming in, Kathy. Welcome in. Jesse coming in green on YouTube with the super. Appreciate you, Jesse, with the corgi. This O-line problem isn't new. It goes back to the 18 years. It's just that 18 could lift the team by being. It goes back to Peyton Manning years. Lift the team by being fast in a way no other QB does. Yeah, I would say that if you're willing to concede the fact that Russell Wilson isn't great in the quick passing game, you know who was? Yeah, Peyton Manning was pretty good about pre-snap reads and getting the ball out quickly.
Yeah, no, that's it's definitely a problem. And talking about the offensive line struggles, I thought the offensive line again was average last season, and you saw big improvements under the years of Mike Munchak. Now, that being said, I thought Chris Strausser, who was here for a little bit as well, and Sean Kugler did a pretty good job. So you had some good offensive line coaches with some skins on the wall in spite of injuries.
Average is pushing it, though. I mean, they were okay. They were average against average defensive lines. Against plus defensive lines, they got their asses kicked in the trenches. They got bullied. You could not win those games against physical defensive fronts because you couldn't handle them. And now it's not even you're doing well against. And how good have the defensive fronts been that you've faced? Denver, Indianapolis Colts, good. San Francisco, good. Houston, meh. Seahawks, okay. I wouldn't say that's the strength of their game, but you're able to move the ball between the 20s. But when it comes down, push comes to shove, your offensive line has been poor. It was poor in stretches last year, not consistently poor. It's been poor now.
Yep. 100%. And we got the Epic Gamer coming in with a $10 super here. Thank you so much over on YouTube, saying they have seen some rumors about the Broncos trading to get Christian McCaffrey. What do you guys think about that? I think the Broncos do not have the draft capital to bring in Christian McCaffrey. I know it'd be fun to bring in the native son, but the way his contract is set up, the Panthers would have to eat a bunch, and the Broncos are going to need their draft capital. I mean, you just paid big money to Russell Wilson. You're going to need some cheap, cost-controlled picks to help fill out the rest of the roster. And this is a team that's already dealing with just a lack of draft capital this upcoming season. Now, if the Broncos, God, there's a number of circumstances where if Christian McCaffrey is still available and the Broncos are trending in the right direction and they need something like that maybe I would be interested in that for the Broncos perspective. But right now, I think it's probably not likely because this is a team that just doesn't have the rainy day draft capital to go make a move like that.
Yeah, that's a luxury player. Is a skill shifty running back I can use in the slot. That's a luxury right now. You can't afford a luxury. You've got to take care of the nuts and bolts for in the trenches, on the offensive line first before you start thinking about skill players. And unless possibly, I would rather go receiver first.
Yeah.
I'd rather get another receiver to come in before I would go another running back.
Yeah, 100%. Benjamin Flores, what's up? Not too much. Good to see you before we close out the show. And K-Hop asking about DJ Moore with Tim Patrick out. I still don't think that you have the capital to go out there and make that move. If there was an offensive lineman available, then I'd be interested. But the Panthers, I looked over it yesterday. They don't really have any offensive line that make any sense. That wouldn't just absolutely tank their cap because they just paid these guys. They'd have it would be more dead cap than it would be against their salary cap to keep them. So you have to overpay for those guys. But Austin Corbett, you can't really trade for him. Taylor Moton would be an awesome addition. Can't trade for him with his contract. So it doesn't really line up that way, unfortunately. And James, before we get on out of here, talking 2023 draft quarterbacks, saying this year's quarterback group is thin. CJ Stroud with Ohio State and Bryce Young at Alabama. And then there's a drop off. Having extra picks is good and all, but you have to package them and find the right trade partner to move up. I don't think the Broncos will be using any draft capital on a quarterback that they believe is a franchise starter this season. Now, if Russ is struggling again and you have your full assortment of picks in 2024, then I think we can have a conversation about that. But I don't think 2023 is the year in that regard. That being said, I'm still doing the work on the quarterback class because Falcons have some questions there, and it's fun to talk about and the draft in general. I think you got to keep your eye on Hendon Hooker as well at Tennessee. He's been absolutely incredible at Tennessee the last 2 seasons. Big arm, good athlete. Obviously, people probably remember him his first year at Virginia Tech as a true freshman. He played really well and then transferred out. And then also BYU has a really fun young quarterback named Jaron Hall. Both those guys are a little bit older, so they'll probably end up being lower first-round picks to round 3 picks. But 2 talented quarterbacks to keep an eye on. The Anthony Richardson hype's died down a bit. He's got NIL money. I don't think he's going to come out.
That's the thing is that I actually like about this is there's no rush for these guys to come out anymore because they can earn a really good living in college. In some cases, they might make more money. There was always a joke like, why don't I want to go pro? Because they don't want to take a pay cut. Well, that's actually true in some cases now. Anthony Richardson could use another year at playing as a full-time starter in college. It would benefit him greatly. And, he can get 7 figures on an NIL deal, leading a team like the Florida Gators. So that's fine with me. I kind of like Will Levis of Kentucky Wildcats. I think he's what scares me a little bit is the Jay Cutler syndrome, where he tries to force too many things and gets into some bad decisions. But overall, I like what I see there, though. There's like you said, though, if you could use your first round pick, the first time you get one back on a quarterback, because you'd have 2 years left. Let me see, 2024, you'd have basically 2 years left of Russell Wilson. So you'd be grooming the next guy.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But yeah, no, we appreciate you guys. And let's keep it in. Not sure what's going on there with that comment. But anyway, it's time to wrap it up on here. We're at 59 minutes according to my ticker. Scott, any final thoughts before we close this on out?
Yeah, real quick. I meant to show this to y'all. Harvey Lange was signed yesterday as as a linebacker, practice squad, I imagine. I actually watched him a lot in high school. He was a beast of a running back. So picture an NFL linebacker playing running back, and that's what you get. So I've got some high school highlights I posted yesterday. I dropped in the chat just now. So go give Harvey a watch at running back playing. It's at he was from South Jordan High School in Bingham, or flip that. It was Bingham High School. And anyway, Bingham High School in South Jordan in Utah, and just a lot of fun to watch. So give that a watch. Spend a couple minutes and watch your new linebacker.
Yeah. Yep, that's be a lot of fun. And there's Scott with the links here. Make sure you guys are checking it out. We appreciate the heck out of you all. I'm not sure what this comment is, man. So what's going on with the comment section here? But we appreciate you guys. We're going to get on out of here. It's actually going to be Scott and I again tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the Broncos panic meter so far this season. So make sure you're checking that out, and make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also make sure you're following us at Broncos for Breakfast Twitter account at BFB_pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join our Facebook community at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says there underneath, if you're joining us on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share on YouTube. Click that bell icon so that way you get the notification when we go live. And we will be live again tonight for some Broncos for breakfast for dinner while building breakfast for dinner with the Broncos. So we appreciate you guys. Make sure you're all choosing kindness and compassion as always. We'll see you tonight. Have a great Tuesday. Go Broncos.